Several months ago, I was having a conversation with someone close to me about someone else close to me who was furthering their education, and the person I was talking to didn't understand the reason behind it, the purpose to pursue a higher degree of education when you are already making you have a substantial income, you're living comfortably, you have a nice job doing what you really want to do, and maybe your education isn't required for that job and is maybe unrelated to that job, the education that you're pursuing now. And I said, well, I understand it. And then the conversation, of course, switched to me, and I had just started my first semester of college. At the time, I was reading Blitzed, Drugs in the Third Reich, which I recommend to anybody who wants to read about Nazis on meth. And I explained, I'm reading this because the information, even though it's not applicable to my life, is interesting. And I love learning. Inherently, I love learning. And the person I was talking to said, well, that's still a form of entertainment. And something felt wrong about me watching and reading the kinds of things that I do simply in pursuit of entertainment, because entertainment is a form of pleasure. So ultimately, if I'm just reading these books and listening to these podcasts for entertainment, that's a form of low-functioning hedonism. Of course, in hedonism, there's a hierarchy of pleasures, and intellectual stimulation is at the height of this hierarchy. Bonding with people is a higher pleasure than just having sex with people. But I'm obviously not a hedonist, and I'm opposed to this, so I'm not going to take the time to argue against every pleasure in the hierarchy. Instead, I want to point out that in hedonism, the intellectual stimulation that comes from the production and absorption of knowledge is the pleasure, not what you do with it. The problem with that is that nearly every school of thought on earth admits that knowledge is not intrinsically valuable. Knowledge is only as valuable as whatever one does with that knowledge once it is acquired. Whether you just kind of let it sit in your mind, whether you forget it, whether you contemplate it, whether you use it to reach out to the world, to act on the world, and to make it a better place for yourself and for others. The problem here is that hedonism cannot account for that. So you say it's entertainment, which would be a low-level pleasure on the hedonistic totem pole, and I can say, well, no, I know it's not that, because I'm on an intellectual journey and I'm pursuing the ability to think more clearly, to see the world from new perspectives, and to constantly challenge myself, and to have this ongoing internal debate as well as this external debate with the world to try to figure out the best solution to the world's most pressing problems. And that's my motivation. I know that on a personal and an internal level. But you can say it's not entertainment, but still a pleasure. I mean, you can use those words fairly interchangeably outside of a strictly philosophical context. But if we can agree at all that there is no inherent value in knowledge and only in what we can do with that knowledge, then that refutes the idea of intellectual stimulation as a hedonistic pleasure. Because intellectual stimulation is the first thing that comes from absorbing knowledge. I would describe it in this way, and it can certainly be pleasurable in the right context. But most of the time, it's not pleasurable at all. It's challenging. And if it's pleasurable all the time, you're probably doing it wrong. You're not challenging your thoughts. You're just listening to, reading, watching, conversing about things you already believe. You then proceed to push your beliefs out into the world without accepting the possibility that you may be wrong, without putting your thoughts up for debate. So most of the time, intellectual journeys are not pleasurable or entertaining. They are challenging. The pleasure comes, or can come, from what we do with the information. The results of what we do with new knowledge may be pleasure, but they may be even more challenging, or they may be horrible. Oftentimes, if what's done is worthwhile in the eyes of the world around you, it won't be personally pleasurable at all. But that's okay. We'll pursue them anyways, while generally trying to broaden our perspectives of the world and of ourselves. If once I've challenged my perspective and attained a new outlook on an issue or on the world in general, I choose not to do something pleasurable with that, but to do something even more challenging, then hedonism would have me believe that all of this has been a fruitless endeavor because I gain no personal pleasure from the effort involved. But that's not why I did it in the first place, is it?